So the work that I'm going to talk about is work that's in progress, partnering with longevity with some industry sponsorship. The project is called Project Transform. It took on a bold initiative to transform research practice and policy to put the patient at the center of all of these. And we've been really focusing on understanding the point of view. And to do that, you have to engage with patients, you have to understand patients. There is some measurement that needs to be going on, and you have to show people what's going on with this work. So in our engagement, we partnered with 22 people with lung cancer. They were our boss. We were not, we changed the paradigm in terms of the researchers. They told us what to do. They developed the research instruments, and they guided us through this. So we called them the Patient Action Council. We helped with them to define what our goals were, and they would bold. We had originally just focused on doing a survey. They challenged us to think very, very broad, to focus on all different aspects of care. But what we really needed to do through that process was to form a deeper understanding. And what we learned when we were met and over a multi-year process got to know these 22 people, we understand that their perspective originally was focusing on just living. That was their first initiative. Then they had to go through this process of learning. They had to navigate a complex system. They had to become masters of their own destiny in a very complex world, whether that was clinical trials or care or genetics. They had to do this. But then the people that we met had this compulsion to share, and I think that that's what today is about, is coming back and sharing those experiences. Importantly, we went on to focus on measuring aspects, and driven by recent guidance at the FDA to focus on the patient's perspective in their regulatory decisions. We were asked to kind of focus on what is the value of these long-term side effects. If we're going to have survivorship, we need to understand what the consequences of treatment are in the long term. So we focused on applying a conceptual model of long-term side effects, and we developed a kind of taxonomy of what the future might look in terms of outcomes, in terms of different types of endpoints for these different mechanisms. I, in my work, focus on discrete choice experiments. This is an experiment that's used in marketing, psychology, economics, transportation to help design systems. The FDA has recently issued guidance for doing this type of work, both from industry and from an advocacy and an academic point of view. So we're developing very cutting edge science to do experiments like this, and we take them to people with lung cancer, and they help shape what the future is about and help guide the FDA's decisions. We engaged a group of this at one of the longevities meeting last year in DC, and as a pilot, we demonstrated the value of this. This is a really important aspect in terms of decreasing the side effects. So one of the benefits of some of the new treatments is, yes, they offer some chance to have increased overall survival, but they also have lower toxicities. How do we explain the value of lower toxicities to the FDA, to other decision makers, to bureaucrats? This, through the science of measuring patient preferences, these are the equivalencies. So if we could decrease short-term side effects, this would be the equivalent of generating life of 1.8 months. But look at if we could increase overall functioning in survivors, long-term side effects, this would be the equivalent of adding an extra 3 2/3 months. Now, if we think about the future in terms of increasing survival, but also decreasing benefits, the types of calculations that we're doing here allow us to give a full picture of the value of innovations. And from the FDA's point of view, when we showed that we could do this to the FDA, they were so amazed. Just like, you can sum it all up using this type of work. We can have a much better focus on the patient's perspective. So we now see, particularly under PDUFA 6 and other pieces of legislation, 21st Century Cures, patients in organisations who answer surveys are now telling the FDA what to do, and the FDA has to listen. We look here, this is an important aspect. Another piece of legislation is the 21st Century Cures Initiative. This compels the federal government, both the NIH and the FDA, to start thinking about personalized medicine. When we took the results here and we map it over a population, we see different people have different rates of acceptability. They have different values. We need to accommodate that into decision making as well, and understand that in the design of clinical trials, in the analysis, in the reimbursement of treatments. How do we focus on implementing this? We're going on to doing a national study. It is launching as part of this month's activities. But most importantly, we realize that there are some people who are very hard to get. We've partnered with some of our original participants on our committee to be advocates, ambassadors for our research, and they're going back into their own community to recruit hard-to-reach people. And I think that it's those hard-to-reach people that have to have a voice in this process. That's one of the key aspects of our learning of what's moving forward. So in terms of this research, we focus sometimes on the molecule or on the cancer, but I think we have to focus on the patient as a whole. And to do this, we have to engage with patients. We have to come to understand patients as a whole being and everything that they need to come. We do need measurement analytics, and there is clear guidance now on how to use those analytics, but we must follow through. Our work has to be implemented. We have to go with our research and explain it to people like you, but also to policymakers and decision makers. Thank you very much.